Hi, everyone. We're just letting people in and giving another couple of minutes to let everybody log in.
Well, Katie,
Hi. Nice to
hope
put a
all,
face with a name.
it is. Hope all is well with you and your family.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Certainly.
Good morning.
Like we can go on in and I can just lean it up against one of them napkin holders and listen to them.
We didn't talk.
All right. If you want to go ahead and get started, we can go ahead, First Lady. You're muted.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank you all for jumping on this call this morning. I appreciate all your emails and text messages about my father. It's been a tough week, but we're getting through it. So thank you all for your messages. I so appreciate it. It's a pleasure having you all here for our 2021 Zoom tour to highlight our new initiative under Louisiana Fosters, which is called One Church, One Family, One Child. Louisiana Fosters all started about 5 years ago when Secretary Walters and I discussed what I could do, how I could be involved in the foster care system. Just because of being a teacher and having just a tremendous love of children, I knew I wanted to do something with children. And so the journey evolved, of course, as our conversations grew and more people came into the conversations. And so Louisiana Fosters is now a statewide resource. And what our goal is to link government, nonprofit, businesses, and faith-based organizations together to build a supportive network for our state's foster children and foster and birth parents. And it's done in partnership, of course, with the Department of Children and Family Services. So we've been able to connect more foster children with their forever families than ever before. So I just have a few numbers that John Bell and I are so both proud of. In 2016, his first year in office, 735 children and 532 families were involved in this adoption of these children out of the system. It was the historical high. 735 children were adopted out of the foster care program. And I remember John Bell saying, we're probably not going to hit this number ever again, Donna. And I thought, we're going to have some praying people behind this situation. So sure enough, in 2017, we had 771 children adopted out. 2018, 912. Sorry, I'm not in my office. And then 219, 893 children. So in 2020, of course, with the pandemic, everybody was concerned, of course, as they should be with the adoptions and such. But we had another all-time high. 2020, we had 756 children adopted by 549 families. So over the first 4 years, we had over 4,000 children, 4,067 children adopted from 2016 to now, 2020. So despite the hurricanes, the pandemic, 2020 was the 4th highest adoption total. So that says a lot about the work that this foundation, that this Louisiana Fosters is doing, the work that DCFS is doing. They're incredible. Our partnership with so many other groups around the state, Methodist, the children, or the connection with Methodist Children Home. The faith-based community has been an active part and a participant, and we want to encourage even more of our faith-based community to become involved in One Church, One Family, One Child. So hopefully today you'll be enlightened about hearing about the many ways that you and your church can make a difference. And it's not just a difference in just saying a difference. It's a difference in our state. It's a difference in our parish, in our community, and a change in your own church, and a spiritual change in the lives of your congregation and parishioners. So we're here not to just give you ideas and encouragement. We're here to walk you through this path along with you. We want to be your resource. We want you to reach out to us and ask questions. And John Bell and I have the privilege of worshiping at many churches around the state and visiting with congregation. And we're always so amazed by the dedication to the families, not only in the congregation, but in the wider community. You are truly the beacons of hope, especially for our foster families. So one evening, I was discussing the need for foster families, and we began talking about the larger number of churches in Louisiana. There's probably close to between 4,000 and 5,000 churches in Louisiana. So I had just said to my friend, we have an average of 4,000 children in the foster care program at any given time. And then there was one of those God moments you all know about, that when you realize that the thought that you're thinking is a God-inspired thought. So if every church would consider recruiting and supporting a family that fosters. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. You sound great.
Hello?
You sound
Okay,
great.
I went out.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. And if every church, 4,000, would take on possibly consider adopting one child out of the foster care program. So at any given time, there's 4,000 children in the foster care program. So it weighed out 4,000 churches plus 4,000 children plus. And so it just started, one of those moments that that it's a God-inspired moments that we just kept thinking about it. And we realized that if we could get our churches to wrap themselves and come into this picture with us, and then came along the One Church, One Family, One Child. And basically what that means is if every church would consider recruiting within their church a family, and then that family walk through the process of becoming a foster family, taking in a child or children into their home, and then that church wrap themselves around that family and that child, help them with the needs that so many of us have the privilege of giving our own children, the after school tutoring, the after school sports or dance activities, the prom dress, the church dress. Those resources could be so helpful to a foster family. Even a church that's, we know that this is already happening, so we're not reinventing the wheel. These are things that are already happening in churches around our state. The church that already has foster children, a foster parent in their church, sometimes they don't even realize it. And they ask the question, are there any foster family, any foster, in our own church, right now. And then the church saying, look, we're going to take on a ministry where we give them respite during the week. We have a day outing for the parents to go out and go shopping, go to the movies, and then the church have a babysitter to entertain these children. We know that our church can step up to the plate and help us with so much responsibility in helping these foster families and these children. So I'm so excited for you all to learn about One Church, One Family, One Child. So I want to introduce you to Katie McKelvin, who's the director of our Louisiana Fosters, One Church, One Family, One Child. And Katie is a former school counselor. She has her master's in counseling and has been trained in TBRI. You may hear a lot about TBRI as we move forward, but it's a trust-based relational intervention, trauma, and she's been trained in this. And she also has spent some time with Royal Family Kids Camp, working summer camp with foster children. And her passion and love of children is shown through her deep faith and love of God. So I just want to thank Katie for her commitment to our children and turn it over to Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Hi, I just want to first thank everyone for being on this morning. I know it's a mid-morning thing, but this is worth our attention. So thank you for being here. I was first introduced to the foster care world as a school counselor. And as a school counselor, I was closely involved with DCFS. And one of my roles as a school counselor was to support our foster care community within our school. And I was a pre-K through second. So I worked closely with foster parents and foster kids in that environment. But it wasn't until I went to visit the Baptist Children's Home in Monroe that the Lord shook my view of foster care. As we were touring the Baptist Children's Home, there was a great need that I saw. They had lists of things that they needed for these kids. They had a food pantry that they needed to be filled. And it occurred to me that this was a Baptist children's home. And my background is Baptist. I'm part of the Southern Baptist organization. And it occurred to me that there are a lot of Baptist churches in Louisiana, a lot. And there should be no need for anything at a children's home that was is supposed to be supported and ran by the Baptist church. It lit a fire in me because I saw a need. I realized that the church could meet that need effectively. And so for the first time, my eyes were open to the need of the church in the foster care community. So we got involved. My church, we are a very small church at the time, still are. We decided that we were going to host a shower. Like every good Southern person, we love parties down here. And so what best do we do than to throw a party, invite people, and bring presents? And so that's what we did. We sent out a gift registry to a bunch of local churches in our association, and we invited them to our church rec hall, and we had cake, we had punch, we had treats, and we just sat around and we invited the children's home. They talked to us about their needs and what they do, and we were able to fulfill plenty of needs, like wash rags, soap, any gift cards for them. Even pillows. One day we loaded up a car full of pillows and we brought them down there. It's those little things that make the difference in the grand scheme of foster care. So fast forward a few years later, and it's been my honor and privilege to work under the First Lady for Louisiana Fosters and to advocate for the least of these in the church. And so what we're going to talk about for a few minutes is a tier system that we put together designed to help churches get involved in the foster care community. So our first, basically, what we decided is we needed to design something to help churches see how they can be involved. It can seem like a very big and unreachable population, especially because government is involved, and it feels hard to get involved in that population. And at times it can be overwhelming to try to figure out how to be involved. And our prayer and our goal is to help incorporate foster care ministries that seem to be attainable to our congregation. So let's take a deeper look into what our foster care ministries might look like in our churches. So our first tier is how we is basically a small way to get involved. To start, if we've never been in the foster care realm before, this is a way we can be involved. So we have designed it to start in simple ways. And the first tier is all about supporting the foster care system with some ideas like feeding your foster families or somebody identified in the foster care community weekly, praying and fasting over the foster care community in your area, have parties like we had, host a gift card drive. I know every year when we have Christmas parties and stuff at the governor's mansion, we ask everybody to bring a gift cards for kids. And we have been able to provide a lot of these organizations that are working in Louisiana in the foster care community with these gift cards to go back and support their families that they're working with. So as we talk about how the best ways to get involved, most foster families are lacking the care and support that they need for longevity, right? We have a lot of people that are in and out of the foster being foster families. And so what we know as a parent, I know it takes a village to raise children. It does. And so a lot of these foster families don't have that village, and we as the church can be that village for those foster families. Providing needs for these families is a way that we can show the love of Christ every day, all day to them. So as we move on throughout the tiers, our middle tier is really about serving those families that are already in our congregations, foster families that are already attending our churches, and those foster families that are connected to church members that are already in our churches as well. So maybe they don't go to our church, but we know them as congregant members, like we know of these people. And it's about wrapping around that family and showing them that they're loved, meeting the needs and offering support. I know for me, some of the hardest times I've ever been through in my life is when my friends who are believers stepped in and made it wasn't less hard, but it was bearable because they stepped in and loved me. And that is what we want to do. We want to step in the gap for these foster families who don't feel heard, they don't feel supported. And we want to say, this is our job as Christians. Our job is to step in and support y'all. And our theme, it's basically everyone can do something, right? We aren't asking people to step in and create these foster care ministries that are just that are known and recognized. We just want to help you start somewhere. We are here to help and use the gifts that you already have. Identify those groups in your churches that can already be utilized and that are already being utilized, and shift a little bit and help them give to the foster care community. Our third tier is all about engaging the foster care community at large. So that means working in your church, providing foster care support within the church, and then looking out and saying, what are these other organizations around us doing and how can we support them? So it's really about community engagement. We're already helping foster families, we're already ministering to them, we're already doing that, but how can we recruit foster families? How can we keep foster families, and how can we support other families and organizations that are already doing this good work? Ultimately, the goal is to get as many Christian families involved in the foster care system as possible, because we know, and I know, that change happens when Jesus is involved. And so we want those families to feel the love of Christ and feel the support of Christ, because that is what's going to be the game changer with foster care in Louisiana. So I want to introduce Kim Bigler. Kim, in 2010, she started what would eventually become James Samaritan out of the trunk of her car in California. Over the last 5 years, she's built an organization that has an incredible impact on the children of Louisiana. Kim?
Everybody, I'm not muted, right? I don't know how to do these things. Okay, I'm good, right? Thank you. First of all, First Lady, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about your dad. That hit me in my heart. So, because I'm a daddy's girl. So I just want you to know that you have my prayers at this time, you and your family. But yes, the Lord not only hog-tied me into the kingdom, he hog-tied me onto the field of foster care. Okay, so I just want to tell you a little bit about that. When about 10 years ago, I got this mass email from a very well-to-do church in California. And this church in the area, again, had a lot of resources. They were thriving. They had a really great, stable community. And I got this mass email about a young lady who had just aged out of the foster care system. And she had just turned 18. She had been in 22 different placements in 5 different group homes. And apparently she somehow secured an apartment for herself with no furniture. And it was freezing. It was around Christmas time. There was no central air and heat. And she just reached out for this church for a heater. Well, the ironic part is that I had just bought a $30 heater from Walmart for my dog for the garage that very same day, because it was cold that day. And I just remember that kind of lit a fire in me. And I was stomping around my living room saying, what is the church doing? We have a church on every single corner. Why does her story have to be exploited in a mass email to 3,000 people? Where was the church when she was in transition for 22 different homes? Where was the church when she was in transition for 5 different group homes? And why is her, why is there's this plea for a $30 heater when in the time that it took them to write this email, they could have gone and gotten it for her. So I was kind of burning and stewing in my self-righteousness, and I was stomping around my living room, and I was going, what is the church doing? And literally a still small voice said, Kim, what are you doing? I want you to get the heater. And I've been getting proverbial heaters ever since. So it started such a fire in me. I wanted to help the frontliners, because I was like, well, I don't know the realities of these kids. They're super invisible to me. So I need to work with people who work with them, who have that touch, that can tell me their needs, because I know the church. The church would provide the needs if they knew the needs. I didn't know the need. And so I wanted to know more needs so I could communicate that to the church and mobilize for half of the invisible children. So I went to the DCFS and I just walked in, cold called myself into the building. And there was just pandemonium going on. There was kids, teens with trash bags in their hands, waiting for their next placement. There was moms crying, babies crying. It was just seemed to be a lot of chaos at the time. And I remember looking for a lady. She had a DCFS badge on, and she was trying to attend to everybody in the waiting room. And I said, ma'am, I'm here to volunteer with the Department of Child and Family Services. She looked at me like I was crazy. Like, nobody just comes off the road and like wants to volunteer for these families. Who are you? Are you nutballs? And I said, no, I just want to help. What do you need? And she goes, and a little bit condescendingly, she said, you know what I need? That you see that 8-month-old baby girl over there in the corner? She's not going to get placed on time unless she gets her aunt gets a crib, because a crib is needed for a home inspection to pass. And our caregivers, they're paycheck to paycheck, and they're low-income family members that will provide safety for these kids. And so I said, well, what does she need? And she goes, we need a crib, but we don't need it in 2 weeks, and we don't need it in 2 months. When we say we need a crib, we need it within 24 hours. And right there and then I started a Facebook page and started, said, shaming everybody on Facebook that there's an 8-month-old baby girl that needs to be placed in the right home. And can you believe that a crib, something as material as a crib, is keeping that from happening today? And I don't need a crib when it's convenient for you. I need a crib that's convenient for the 8-month-old. and the convenience of the 8-month-old is right now. So I literally shamed everybody on a post, and I pressed clicked, and I had about, not only did I have one crib within 10 minutes, I had like 50. So my shaming worked, Pastor. My shaming worked, and sometimes you got to give it. So in that moment, I became the founder of a nonprofit that I never set out to do. I was actually a missionary in Russia, Fiji, and the Philippines. When I got saved big time, and I got sent on the mission field as an evangelist. So that's what I was going to do. And I was going to live a life of celibacy and go preach the gospel in countries. And here I am giving cribs in the foster care system. So I became a domestic missionary, and I'm so proud of it. And I've seen God move mountains. And so I needed to learn more about the foster care system. I thought they had it handled. I didn't know there were so many needs. I didn't know that the church was actually like, actually, it's not government, it's you that need to be doing this. So will you please mobilize the church community? So James Samaritan was born, and we have given out everything from a crib to a bunk bed to keep brothers together. You know, siblings were getting separated because they didn't have bunk beds to stay together. And I remember talking to these little boys, and they said, if we're the only mom and dad we've ever had to each other. And that broke my heart. How can we not give these kids a bunk bed? So shamed everybody every single day for years on Facebook, getting prom dresses for girls who wouldn't go to prom. We got cap and gowns for all the kids who will not go to their graduation because they don't have the cap and gown and don't look like everybody else. I didn't know that either until teens told me that. Wait, you're the first one to graduate high school, but you're telling me you won't go to a landmark a time in your life because you don't have a cap and gown? Exactly, Miss Kim, because we don't want to get rejected anymore. We don't want to be laughed at anymore. We've had old jeans going to school for 10 years. People knew that we were abused. We had, holes in our sweater, and nobody came through for clothes for us. And I don't want to get laughed at going up there with no cap and gown. So we got cap and gowns. We even got senior rings because we wanted them to have a token that we believe in you. We're cheering you on, and you may not have been seen for 22 different placements, but we see you now. The church sees you now, and we're cheering you on. And through that, we just learned of new needs through the kids and the families that took care of them. So they told us they needed braces. We get them braces. They told us they needed, a transitioning youth, needed rental assistance or that down payment. They had rent for the first month, but they didn't have the first and last month's rent or that rental assistance deposit. We would get that. So as I'm speaking today, and when I did when this tour began, I said, Lord, what do you want people to hear today? And he goes, I want people to know that I just want their yes. Because if they give me their yes, I'll give them everything else. And let me tell you, I have seen water turn to wine in 10 years of doing this. I have seen not having enough dolls for Christmas, praying that I left some children out, and all of a sudden I find 5 extra dolls under a chair. Like, I have seen strange things in the name of the Lord. Okay. And if we ask anything in his name on behalf of the least of these, he comes through, and he comes through in spades. So I remember this one story. We had like a drug bust happened. And I was like, Jesus, you got mail, because there was a drug bust and there was like 30 people, like this ring, and 30 people entered, got arrested, but those 30 people had a child or 2 each. And so I had the DCFS call me. We've got so many children that need beds. And as you know, we have to have a bed to place these children. Now we've got some homes available, We found some family members, but again, these family members are low income, paycheck to paycheck. Can you help us out? And for me, I learned with the Lord a long time ago. It is not if he wants to, it's just how he wants to. So I said, Lord, you got mail. You set me up for this. Okay. So I'm putting your name out here. This is not in the name of Kim Winston Bigler. This is in the name of you. So I don't know how to get, 60 beds. And do you know that in 2 days, after putting out some emails and some names that it came to my head, I had about several companies not only pony up one bed, they ponied up 10. And I'm telling you what, I've never questioned God's faithfulness from that day forward, because that was way beyond I could dare ask or think. And it happened in 24 hours. And again, he just needed my yes. He just needed me to go. I couldn't sit there and go, well, that's too much for me. I'm going to let First Lady Edwards handle that. He wouldn't do. No, he said, just get your yes out there and I'll do the rest. And he did. And so we've also seen it in one of our programs. It's called Open Table, because the Lord was showing me, yes, these kids need resources. Yes, their families need resources. Yes, their kinship caregivers need resources, but they need relationships, life-giving relationships, community connections more than anything else. Because when you give them that apartment and you give them that heater and you give them that prom dress and you give them that cap and gown and you give them that car, because yes, we have a vehicle program. We do give cars out. We do help with car insurance for these kids. When you do that without a village of support around that child, around that youth you're giving resources to, they still flounder. They still do not transition well and into independence. So although resources are important, relationships are critical. And more than anything else, the church is that relationship problem solver, chain breaker, life-giving, oil dripping relationships, life-giving relationships, empowering relationships that God has actually resourced to bring a difference into that one child's life. So we started this program called Open Table, where we recruit 6 or 7 volunteers from each church, one table, 6 or 7 volunteers trained to walk with a child or a youth who has experienced trauma. And they walk with them for 1 hour, once a week for 1 year, proven to help them transition into independence. Now, somebody talked about families earlier. A lot of our churches, they have actually these struggling families in them where children have been taken away. Let me tell you, we have an open table for them too. We don't want to just serve the youth when they turn 17 or 18. We want to serve that single mom who lost that 17 or 18 at 5 years old. Do you see what I'm saying? We want to serve her and break the generational cycle. So this is where the church comes in. This is where domestic missionary work happens in Louisiana. And it happens, we're trying to do this big work when God's just saying, just say yes to one. Just say yes to one. So close with this. Like First Lady said, it just takes one family in a church to adopt a child who, let me tell you what, God says he's a father to the fatherless. So he can't be anything else, which means he doesn't have any child without a family. Look, he had a plan, and that plan was Jesus Christ when we messed up. So when a struggling family breaks down to the point where that child needs a family, he already had a plan for that child. He already had a backup, and it wasn't second best. It was his plan from the foundation of the world. And so that one church, one family, one child is huge. And I've seen when one family steps up, many start stepping up in many different ways. And the revival that we have prayed for decades now starts happening in that church. First Lady was right. It causes a spiritual transformation. How do I know that personally, Kim? Because at age 48, I adopted a little girl who is now 4 years old from our state's foster care system. I am 48 years old. I might as well be 80, and I am starting all over again with the toddler. Okay. I know I'm living proof. My yes. Okay. I gave it to God, and she is thriving. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. So a call still goes left unanswered to the churches. Will you say yes to one? Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us saying yes today to do what the First Lady said and see a change in these children's life in the state of Louisiana. I will be glad to be a partner in that with you. I partner with the First Lady and Louisiana Fosters. They have me. Louisiana Fosters has this crazy lady. But so it's not so much the pastors need to work harder. It's not so much that the pastors need to do a new thing. Just include us. We'll do the rest. We'll be your worker bees. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity today to speak, First Lady.
Man, that doesn't light a fire in you. I don't know what will. I'm going to introduce our next guest. Her name is Margie Nelson, and she is a foster care ambassador for the Monroe, Alexander, and Shreveport regions for the Louisiana Foster Care Support Organization. And she is the founding director of the Rural Family Kids Camp of Northeast Louisiana and has been serving kids in multiple capacities for basically her whole life. Margie?
You, and thank you again to all of you for all that you do, and to the First Lady and the foundation for really bringing this to all of Louisiana, because it's kind of like we've been beating the drum for a long time, and until we got true leadership beating it with us, it was hard to get anywhere. So to see that our leadership is just totally on board and getting the word out is empowering, and also invigorating. You know, we feel like, especially, I mean, we had a meeting not very long ago, much like this, and I got off of there thinking, all right, what else can I do? You know, when you see what other people are doing, it's just invigorating. So thank you so much for this. I really can't wait until more people understand what this is about and come on and get their fire stoked a little bit too, because this is a huge tool, and I think it's going to be a great thing. I have been involved in foster care pretty much all my life. My parents were foster parents at a time that being a foster parent was not very accepted, really. And we weren't from Louisiana. We were from St. Louis, Missouri. So here were these hippie, big city people. My dad rode a Harley, moving into big Delhi, Louisiana with their foster kids, or had foster kids a little bit later. It was a shock to the system. So it was, as I grew up, you know, I had foster siblings my whole life, but it never really, I don't know why, occurred to me to foster myself. I taught school for a long time. I taught school for 14 years, worked with a lot of foster children and children who ended up at the Baptist Children's Home. One of them almost ended up at my home first, but I was really young, had no idea what I was doing, and God just saw fit that he didn't come home with me. And so I had those small little leadings, but nothing very concrete. And then years later, he did call my family into foster care. We have 2 biological children, and my husband and I did foster a preteen and teenager. Very challenging, but I'm a youth minister, so that's my jam. Those are the kids that I relate to the most and talk to more than I do adults, and it is truly where my heart is, actually. And so I got involved with foster care through one of our youth who came to live with us and through the foster system. From there, God just kept pushing me to leave the classroom, which was very scary. I went to college for that. I got a degree for that. And he's like, here, leave. I have no idea where I'm going. I had no idea where my next career was going to be, or even my next paycheck, which frankly I needed. And so he pushed me out of the classroom, and I worked from home as a photographer for 2 years, just trying to make ends meet until I could figure out, okay, God, where do you have me? And then I got a call from the Children's Coalition, which put me back into education, which was great. But then God just had a great plan, put me back with foster care again. So I'm like, okay, well, something's really going on here. So back to what Kim said, I just want to reemphasize that it was just a yes. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, okay, Lord. And when I had said no, which I did, I said no far more times than I said yes in the beginning. And I felt so out of control with that and so convicted and frankly miserable. And so a yes to God is just a yes to move forward with your life as well. And so from those yeses, he's opened so many doors, and I'm so incredibly thankful. And I won't get into all of the professional pieces that got me here, but where I am now is supporting other people's yeses. I've been through a lot. I've had a lot of experiences. I've started 2 different nonprofits. I've started the RFK camp here in North Monroe. I've worked at the Baptist Children's Home. Now I'm at the Methodist Children's Home. And through the Methodist Children's Home, I get to be the foster care ambassador. And I mean, I get to be. I don't feel like I have a job ever. Like somebody's going, I know they'll call me. I know this is after hours. And I'm like, there is no after hours for me. This is life for me. My life and ministry finally came together, and I feel like I am who I was created to be after all of these years. So I don't have any work hours because I don't really work. I just chase a big passion. So what I do for those of you in the Monroe region, the Shreveport region, and the Alexandria region, and to be honest, all over the state, of course, I will help anybody anywhere, but I'm assigned to those 3 regions, and I help churches. I help churches start support groups. I help churches maintain support groups. I help them assess what the need is. We don't just hop up shop support groups because they won't make it. The only support groups that really thrive are those who see a need, meet the need. If you'll go back to Kim's story, she didn't just say, hey, I'm here and I want to start a nonprofit. No, the nonprofit started because someone told her there was a need, or God led her to the need. And so she saw the need and she worked out how to meet the need, and God blessed her through that and grew it through that. And that's what I try to tell the churches. Your need in your church is not going to look the same as what Kim's doing from her church, or what Katie's doing through her church, or what anyone else is doing, because your people don't have the same needs. So I help assess, what are the needs? Who are your foster parents? Do you have foster parents? And it's okay if you don't. We might want to help recruit through your church at least one family that you can wrap around. And I'll echo what Katie said. My church is extremely small. I mean, like, we run 50 in Sunday schools, maybe 60 sometimes, and most of them are elderly. Yet my church sustains the RFK camp, which is a big endeavor. They also, when I was a foster mother, they wrapped around my family. I just can't even tell you what all they did, and helped us with travel ball, because I had a cheerleader, a band marcher, and then I had a travel ball player, and then I had another softball player, and they were always going in different directions on different teams. My church stepped in. I had them take them different places, and I had them actually finance different things that they were involved in. So I've actually been on the receiving end of being wrapped around. I've been wrapped around, and I've helped other people know what that looks like and what that means and what that's going to, how that's going to help and how it can be done. I love the open table concept because it's a structured way that makes you feel confident in being able to meet the needs. Because, right now I'm dealing with an aged out foster child. He's 26 now, but I've had him at my table by myself, because it's not a part of open table for 8 years now. And so it's very difficult because I am the table. And I'll try to bring other people in, and they'll be like, oh, that sounds good. And then I never hear from them again. So the open table really brings the structure that makes a commitment from other people, where you're not alone, because foster care is very isolating. I can't even explain to you how isolating it is for the family and for the ones who are serving in it. And that's part of my role, is to show you you're not alone. Not only would you have me, but I have a lot of resources that go into that I have my hands in all the way across the state. So somebody tells me they need something, I'm like, okay, give me a couple of days, I'll get right back with you. And so, and I'm like, Kim, sometimes it's just a couple hours. I had DCFS reach out to me at Christmas and said, look, I have this kinship family. They just took on 7 grandchildren, but they're not certified yet. So they have no funds coming in for these 7 grandchildren, and it's Christmas. Can you help? I got on Facebook, and within 2 hours, we had enough funding to make that the most magical Christmas you can imagine. And so, when there's a need, people are willing to meet it. You just have to have that relationship with them where they trust that you're going to do what you've said you're going to do with it. And they see the results from that. You've got people who will just jump in, and it's amazing. And so, doing for other people and having those, in your church, having those support systems who will wrap around other people, it's going to affect your church in ways you never dreamt possible. And I'm sure you've seen it in other ministries, but if you haven't been involved in foster care ministry, it is truly life changing for the members, for the volunteers, even like there are RFK camps. So those of you in the Monroe region, we do have a camp that ministers to foster children and their families. And now the majority of our first 28 children that we have served, the majority of them are either adopted, or so they're part of that great number, or they're reunified with their biological families. We say are still part of us, and then we minister to their families. So through RFK, we are ministering to biological families, we minister to kinship care, we minister to adoptive families, and of course, foster families. We provide training for the community. So all of that is super important. And so when you have someone, because of DCFS, because of the state seeing, hey, we have a need for someone to support our churches, for someone to support our foster families, that's where my position came in. So I try to encourage people all of the time. DCFS and the state, they're really listening. They really are putting things in place, but it is a giant system, and it's hard for everyone to know all of the great things that are going on because the noise of the not so great things is really, really loud. So we really want to let people know that there are some great things here and great things coming. We just have to tap into those. The one last thing for you to really know what's going on across your state, May 6th, and you can email me and I'll send you the flyer, all of the information, but we have a whole day of speakers who are going to talk about the different ministries that are happening statewide, why it's happening, what need they're meeting, how God led them to it, and how they got started, and how they will help you replicate that in your part of the state if that's a need that your community has. So May 6th, it's on Zoom, it's free, it's all day. There's many sessions throughout the day that you can sign up for, so you can handpick exactly where you want to go, exactly who you want to see and hear from. And the First Lady will also be a special guest that day. So some of the people that you're seeing right here on this screen are the same ones who are going to be there May 6th. So email me, I'll put my email in the chat, and I will send you the flyer, and you can send it out to anybody you want to. Everyone is invited, but it's a huge, huge tool, and I would love to see it get just filled up. We only have about 40 people registered right now, and it should be so much greater than that going across the state and for the information that's going to be shared. So thank you again so much for everything that's going on and just the excitement. This is the greatest time to be involved in foster care. Thank you for all that you've done to make it that way.
Thank you so much. And that that conference is called Foster the Connection. There's DCFS, Methodist Children's Home, Baptist Children's Home, and Louisiana Fosters have collaborated to create that. So it's gonna be a great event. So we're talking about resources, and I wanted to highlight something on our website. It's our resource page. And it basically, you can click on your area if you go on it, and it pops up all the organizations, the nonprofits in your area that are already doing the good work. So I want to highlight that, because if you don't know where to start, contacting one of those organizations and saying, what do you need, is a great way to start. Another thing I want to highlight is, what are the foster care qualifications? What qualifies you to be a foster care parent? I know that I didn't know, so I was just going to quickly go over that. You have to be at least 21 years of age, single, married, divorced, or widowed, financially stable, meaning you're able to meet the needs of your own family's needs, good physical, emotional, and mental health, an adequate space in your home and mental health, in addition for an additional child. You're going to pass the state and federal crime clearances. So background checks are important. Oh, there's Kim's baby. Hey, sis. Hey. And attend 21 hours of pre-service training and participate in a home study. So it's very overwhelming. I've talked to many parents. They're like, I don't even know how to be a foster parent. And we can walk people through that process along with DCFS and all the other organizations we talked about. So we would love for you to consider being an ambassador for One Church, One Family, One Child. What does that look like? It's doing one or all of the things that we talked about. Create a foster care ministry in your community. Identify those foster families in your community. Implement a program and provide support for those people who are already in your area. That is our ask for today. We want to, in some way, in some capacity, to be involved in the foster care community, whatever that looks like. And we're here to offer that support. I'm here to be on phone calls with y'all, to zoom into your church meetings whenever we can schedule that, to come in, and it doesn't have to be this big event. We just can zoom in and talk to y'all one-on-one about how we can get this going in your churches. My contact information is as followed. It's at the end of the slide. We might be having a little issue with our slides. There we go. My contact information is here. I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email just so you can have my contact information. Some of you already have it based on the invitation. It has my email and stuff on there. But we also have Facebook, Instagram. We have those are our social media stuff. And if you want any more information, please reach out. We want to see this thing go big. We want to see churches on fire for the Lord first. For two, be on fire to work with children, our modern day orphans, right? We're called as the church to be involved with orphans and widows. We are called, that is our calling. True and undefiled religion is to care for the widows and orphans. And I don't know about you, but I want to be in line with Jesus. I want to be lined up and working in his corner. And that means advocating for children. And that is our call. That is our call. If that is not the forefront of what our churches are doing, what are we even doing? What are we doing? So if you have any questions, First Lady, if you want to close us out, you're more than welcome to, obviously.
Yes. Thank you, Katie. And thank you everybody for sharing your stories and your testimonies. And it was lovely to see Kim, your daughter. Thank you for stepping up and saying yes. You all have such a great message. And so two things I just wanted to touch on. One is we have what everybody's been talking about is really just recruiting families and becoming a foster family church, one, one family, one child community. The other is Open Table, which I sent the link in the chat. It's two different things. I don't want to confuse the two. And Open Table is to me a great resource, in my opinion, for older people in the church. When I say older, I'm talking about 50, I'm 50, 60, that are just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge that can sit around a table with someone who's Open Table is geared, if you're not aware, to children who are 20 and older, who are aging out, to be that resource, to have that relationship. And you can look at their link, and somebody from that organization will come to your church and work with your church and help you with that. And then, of course, Louisiana Foster. So we are on a mission, if you can't tell. We are on a mission to reach out to you, obviously, to your church members, and to just to basically beg you to consider being a part of this ministry, to reach out, because there's children in your own community. You know, one of the things, Margie is in that area. Margie, how many, there's like 5 districts, is that right, within the Methodist, the ambassador program?
There's only 3. We have 3 ambassadors
Oh, 3. Okay.
for the whole
So,
state.
which I guess, wow, that's a lot. That's little for a lot, but that's okay. God can use those little to make a lot happen. So basically those 3 ambassadors, we can reach out and help you all along with us and walking through the path, like Katie mentioned. The clickable map that I'm so proud of, it took us forever to get that. I'm not sure why, but it did, is such a great resource. It's something you can share today with your community. You send them a link to that page with your church community, and basically they can click on that and see what organizations are already working in your community, the ones who are helping with clothing, with food. All of those groups we're trying to add to it that are helping with foster children already. So you can start today. You can start this week, reach out to the communities already working, organizations in your community already working, and then also reach out and find out, hey, who in our congregation are foster parents, and go ahead and start wrapping the love around those families. So those are things you don't need any help with. You don't need guidance on. You can just go to work and do that today. So once again, I want to thank all those on the call. You all represent multiple churches, multiple people in your community, and we can do big things with your support, your help, and most of all, your prayers. And so we ask you to consider also adding One Church, One Family, One Child to your prayer list, adding it to your prayer list on Sundays, and say, we're going to pray for this group, this organization to explode in our state and show the rest of the country how you take care of your children. How do you take care? Because John Bill, I always say that the foster children, these children are our children and they're your children. And so we need to walk like she said, the example that Christ set before us. And we need to be love our neighbors, love our children. And so with that being said, thank you all for being on the call. Thank you all for your support. And before I leave or get off, is there any questions that you, Reverend Dixon or Reverend Showers, or anybody on the call may have? Riley, if any of y'all have questions.
I don't have a question, First Lady Edwards, but I do want to say thank you so much for considering to include us in this movement. And that's what I want to call it, a movement, because I believe it's going to begin to gain momentum, and it's going to be bigger. I saw you lift up 3 fingers earlier. I believe that 3 is just a place to begin. It's going to grow from there. So I want you to know, First Lady Edwards, that we are praying for you and your family, that God will continue to grant you his strength and his peace in this season of your life.
Thank you so much.
And I'm
Oops, sorry. I want to say that my name is Riley Chandler, and I grew up with Katie, but I work now with Early Steps. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what Early Steps is. I've been working with Early Steps for 12 years, and Katie reached out to me, and boy, DCFS, I can tell you, has needed help for a very long time. And have been on my heart personally, since I work alongside of them in Early Steps to provide care to lots of these children. But I'm part of this other community as well. And my husband and I are very involved in the church. We have a group that we have started for families. We have young children ourselves, but we are in some way ready to serve whatever God has, because I personally seen the need, because I'm not only live in the community, but work in it as well from a professional side. So I thank y'all for the opportunity to participate in this meeting. I have lots of information, and we'll probably be calling Katie at some point today. So thank you. Thank you again for allowing me to participate.
Reverend Showers.
I'm in accord with what President Dixon was speaking of, and certainly a fantastic program, and we certainly want to work to make it better than what it is. And we certainly keep you and the family in our prayers during our bereavement.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you again. We wanted to keep this all within an hour, so we want to value your time and your and we thank you so much once again for participating in today's Zoom tour, and we hope to hear back from all of you. God bless each and every one of you. Thank y'all. Thank you. Bye-bye.